Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today on this Tuesday, including Craig Button standing by, brought to you by the Waddling Dog Pub. Check out the daily happy hour from 4 to 6. Every UFC pay-per-view and attached liquor store and hotel. Also, don't forget to grab some Donnie and Dolly merchandise at the Dog as well. The Waddling Dog is the place to be this sports season as we bring in TSN Scouting Director Craig Button. Craig, thanks for doing this. How are you, sir?
I am doing really well. How are you and Rick doing today?
Good. Very, very, very good. Very good. Few hiccups on the show, but that's nothing new. Our poll question today is who has the brighter future with the Canucks, and this comes in the wake of that 10-0 shellacking in Calgary the other day. But Vasily Podkolzin or Niels Hoglander, who do you think has the brighter future, not just with the Canucks maybe, but in the NHL?
Yeah, I mean, Vasily was a first-round pick,
yeah.
and Nils a second-round pick. I think they're both players, and when you draft players, and I'm talking specifically about Vasily and Nils, you draft them, and then you start to try to project where you think they can get to. And then the players start to show, okay, maybe they can get to that point. Maybe they're going to be a different type of player. The reason I set that up, I think that they are players that probably are ideally suited to third-line duty. Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing that I like about both of them is I think they can play with skilled players. They're both strong players in tight areas, small areas. They create opportunities with their work ethic. Nils is a little bit more of a dynamic skater, but I see them as third-line players. And I think that part of the process with young players is understanding that despite where you might have projected them, what you thought their potential is, they start to show what they are. I think they're showing what they are. Does that mean that they can't scale up the lineup? No, they could scale up the lineup a little bit, but I think they're ideally suited for third line duty. And I think they both can be good, solid contributors on teams, playing in that role, using them in that role, and expecting them. So I think Vasily has a little bit more offensive upside on his own. Nils, I think, despite getting a lot of chances, he's never had natural finish. And so I think he'll create chances. But on an individual point, I think Vasily's numbers could be a little bit better than Nils. But Nils is a player that creates some opportunities. So I haven't answered your question because I'm not sure that there's a clear line between one or the other. I would probably lean a little bit more towards Podkolzin if you put my feet to the fire.
Hey, Craig, I think I detected an eye roll when I brought up the 10-0 defeat at the hands of the Flames the other day by the Canucks. How much stock do you put in preseason games?
Well, in that game, 0. Number one, it was funny because I wasn't really paying attention at the beginning of the preseason. And then I got an update on my phone. I think at that time it was 6-0 for the Flames, and I'm going 6-0. How is this? Anyway, so I quickly looked at the lineup that the Canucks had, and I just said, "Come on, like this is an A team versus a B team." And at the end of the day, I mean, when you look at the lineup that the Canucks put in that game, I mean, and the lineup that the Calgary Flames put in that game. Yeah. To me, it's just there's no assessment to be made there. I mean, if you're Rick Tocchet, you want to see how some of the players, dig in and compete when the chips are down, so to speak. But in that game, 0 stock. There's not one bit of stock you're putting into that game, just based on the disparity in terms of the quality of player that each team put out on the ice. Where I start to really pay attention, Donnie and Rick, in the preseason, last week. That's where teams are sharpening the saw. Mm-hmm. That's where teams are, and that's where the players are starting to get real serious. This now, we're going to start to see lots of players being sent back to their junior team, sent down to the minors. When we get down to that 27, 28 player roster, that's when teams get serious. Quite frankly, that's when I get serious about the preseason.
Craig, today McWard is with Quinn Hughes. The day before it was Soucy. The day before it was Juleson. They're taking their time. What are your thoughts on finding a partner for Quinn Hughes? Tanev was great. Luke Shen was great, but they're having a little bit of difficulty here, Craig, finding someone. But how would you go about that?
Well, is there any way I can apply for that job? I mean, Quinn Hughes, not that I'm going to help Quinn Hughes, but I think Quinn Hughes is so good and so dynamic that I could. All I'd have to do is just step out on the ice and not have to fall down. I mean, when you're looking at the ability of Quinn Hughes, you want some support for him, and you mentioned, Rick, about Chris Tanev and what a really good I call it partner play, and his partner play with Quinn was outstanding. You're trying to find that player. You're trying to figure out who that can be. I don't know right now. You got Soucy, who's the left shot. You move him over there. Noah Juleson is not the guy for me. I tend to look at Philip Roenick. Could you put Roenick in that spot? He's really good with the puck. Quinn Hughes could get him the puck, and now you become a little bit more dynamic from that pairing from the back end. That's what's interesting to me if we can get it. Ideally, what I would like to see is Tommy Wielander be 2 years older, because I think ultimately Tommy Wielander is going to be the perfect fit with Quinn Hughes.
Craig, the Western Hockey League suspended Kevin Constantine yesterday out of Wenatchee for something he did. Is it just like, I don't get it. Craig, Craig Button, we had Bill Peters, we've had all these coaches, and they keep doing stuff. What is it, Craig, with these coaches? I mean, the mandate is be a good person. You're dealing with young kids, and it looks like he's done something that he's probably going to end up regretting.
Yeah, well, how hard is it to be a good person? I said this last week when we were talking about Mike Babcock. I believe in second chances, and depending on what your transgressions were, and if you've demonstrated that you've learned from them and moved on, and you've earned the opportunity for a second chance, then let's do that. Because we have to give second chances. Because if it's only about first chances, that's not a good scenario either. But in the case of Mike Babcock, and now in the case of Kevin Constantine, without knowing all the details on Kevin Constantine's situation, but my overarching answer to that would be an arrogance that says, I'm going to do what I want, however I want. And it's a reflection on the individuals. Yes, the Wenatchee Wild gave Kevin Constantine a second chance. The Columbus Blue Jackets gave Mike Babcock a second chance. Peter Anholt and Lethbridge gave Bill Peters a second chance. It's incumbent upon the people that have been given a second chance to act accordingly. Because not only is it a bad reflection on themselves, not only is it a bad reflection on the people that gave them that second opportunity, I also think it hurts other people potentially in the future from, being fully embraced for that second chance. Because now people, organizations, oh, really, should we do that? Maybe we won't do that. And I don't think that's right either. So in the case of Mike Babcock, he's hurt people. He's not only acted in a way that was inappropriate and hasn't learned, and now, depending on what it is with Kevin Constantine, if it ends up being this similar situation, he hasn't learned. That's arrogance, and it's potentially harmful to other people that have done the work, that aren't arrogant, that are ready to show that they've earned that second chance. That's what disappoints me.
Craig, Australia, the Kings and Coyotes go there, play a couple of games. I think the NHL ran out of merchandise there. Both games were sold out. Was that trip worth it?
Yeah. If you talk to Gary Bettman and Bill Daly, you're talking about trying to expand your footprint, and you're trying to get into areas internationally in the world where there is an interest in hockey. I mean, they've done the work in terms of understanding, okay, what is the interest level of people in Australia, and is that a place where we can take the game and show them two games? And there's not going to be a team in Australia. We're not going to be traveling. When I say we, the NHL is going to be traveling to Australia on a regular basis. But to have engagement from fan bases all around the world is really positive. And I think that's the idea behind not only going to Australia in the preseason, but also the games where teams are going to Europe to play. There's just right now not only a template, but an appetite for hockey for full-time NHL teams in Europe. But This is really good because you want to engage with fans all around the world because they're able to access it from all over the world in different ways.
Ottawa Senators, Michael Andlauer as owner. Do you expect him to have a positive experience with somebody who knows a thing or two about being in a NHL front office?
Yeah, I mean, as a former owner, he will become a former owner of the Montreal Canadiens. He knows the inner workings of the NHL, which I think will also help him. But Michael has had success at the American Hockey League level with the Hamilton Bulldogs, at the OHL level with the Hamilton Bulldogs, winning championships, running a first-class organization. I know Michael, and Michael is top drawer in terms of how he runs things, how he manages things, and there's no question in my mind that he will have a significantly positive impact on the Ottawa Senators. And the Ottawa Senators are at a point in their progression where they're ready. They want to be a good team. And I think Michael coming in there, it's not only opportunistic for him. He's wanted to be an NHL owner, wanted to own a franchise. He does now. But I think it's also opportunistic for the players, for the team, and for the community. And all you have to do is watch the opening press conference, and Cyril Leader. Cyril Leader is an unbelievable person taking over as a president. He left. He's coming back. Somebody that knows Ottawa really well. I just can't speak highly enough of Michael Andlauer and what he's done, and I have full confidence that under his leadership and his ownership, that the Ottawa Senators are going to do very well, and the city of Ottawa will be really happy with the steps he takes in getting a downtown arena.
Craig, thanks for this. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
We will. Thank you. And hopefully there's not any more news about coaches that were given a second chance or a first chance being stupid in their actions. Because you point out, Rick, it's simple. The standard is set. Don't go below it.
Yep. Yeah, bang on, Craig.
Great
Thank you
point,
very much.
Craig, as usual.
Appreciate it. And we should point out that so far so good with Bill Peters in Lethbridge, right?
Yeah, Donnie, there's been no issues there, but this Constantine thing in the last 24 hours, and we're hearing some stuff, and it's not good.
But how do you make the same mistakes? You're getting a second chance, or we don't know the whole story with Constantine at this point. It's a different world now. That's what I'm getting at.
I've certainly heard what's happened. It's not good, and it's very scary stuff.